It is April 21st, 2025, 3:45 p.m. Um, I have my PC back, but I'm too lazy to set up the camera, mic. So I'm making a recording through my phone again. I have like a bunch of notes for what I've been wanting to talk about, but I'll stick to one topic today, which is the difference between empiricism and religion. And more so the point that although they're very different, when you take a step back, they're both founded on faith. And with religion, that's a lot simpler. It's sort of the brand of religion to have faith in it, right? Especially, for example, Christianity. The whole point is to believe, not to find evidence for it necessarily. It's the power of belief that makes you virtuous. And then on the contrast, like secular, especially specific to empiricism, it's all about finding evidence, right? It's statistical significance. But then the question is, okay, I haven't shaved, but it's fine. Shaving later because of I'll have work tomorrow. But that's another thing I should talk about, but another time. So empiricism. You say to yourself, okay, it makes sense. It's seeing the world through rationality. It's the closest thing to objectivity, right? Or use mathematics and science, which are more or less objective forms to define reality. But then the question becomes, okay, how do you know that rationality is the right way to view the world, basically? And then you get to the point you realize that you have faith in rationality, a faith in objectivity. And that is why you would believe in empiricism. It's just another form of faith that when you dig down, it becomes a sort of a circular reasoning, that it's rational to believe in empiricism. And you believe in empiricism because it provides rationality, and you through that you believe that rationality is the right perception of reality, and therefore you would believe empiricism. Yeah, I described that kind of bad, but I think my point gets across that there's a circular reasoning there, and therefore to some extent there's rationality. And I'm circulating my point here. And another thing to point out, that in the context of faith, I feel that both religion and empiricism are forms of faith that uses symbolism. And this is where semiotics comes back again. I think I talk about semiotics a few times here, but basically the myth in semiotics, which the basic of semiotics is there's a sign, which can be anything. Could be a symbol, could be a language. Like, for example, the word apple. In semiotics, you can divide the word apple into 3 parts. The signified, the signifier, can't see my fingers, signified, signifier, in the sign. So the signifier is the word apple itself, A-P-P-L-E. How you would explain it by, in written language, it will be apple with quotations, basically, talking about the word apple itself. That's the signifier, because it's trying to signify something. Signified is the meaning behind that word apple, which in this case is the apple that is a fruit. That's a signified. And together, the combination of the signified and the signifier creates a word that means apple, and that's the sign that the word has a meaning behind it other than its like physical presence almost. That's a sign. But when it comes to myth in semiotics, we're saying there's another step that goes after that, where the sign that we just created, an apple, becomes a new signifier. So the meaning itself is once again a signifier. And then now we have a new signified. In this case, we could say in context of maybe like religions or like knowledge, for example, or for like the forbidden fruit, knowledge, where apple can, the concept of apple represented by the word apple represents knowledge. And so that whole thing is a new sign. And now we've created 2 layers of signification. And then on top of that, basically, that idea is almost that this apple representing knowledge becomes sort of naturalized, that knowledge and apple becomes synonymous. And that's sort of what myth is in semiotics, from my understanding. And also when you realize myth is basically at every step of semiotics, because you can go with the word apple before even getting to the point of the concept of the fruit apple. You can understand that apple has just these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 random symbols. They each represent a sound. When they're close together, they represent a thing called word. And we understand that a word represents usually a singular concept. So there's already so many layers of signified and signifier within just apple. So we can go backwards and find that there's myth making happening. We go forwards into a higher tier concept, and we can find more myth making, I guess. And then the point I wanted to make here is that I feel in faith a lot of that myth making happens, and the whole point of myth so the whole myth happens, right, in faith. So in religion, it's much easier to explain, I think, which is that like the cross, or the whole story of the Bible, it has like or the Bible itself, actually, it's not just a book, right? It has its own sacred power almost, as its own physical object, more than just a story within it. And the cross is not just 2 lines that are perpendicular. It represents the crucifixion and resurrection, and basically the whole religion itself. And because of its representation, it almost has a sacred power. And this sacred power makes it more tangible, makes it more real. Like the meaning itself becomes real, if that makes sense. Like an aura almost, that compared to a random book next to a Bible, because we put so many layers of mythology or myth making and significance into the Bible, it has a physical presence, more of a physical presence than just a random book. And I'll get to a point with this later. But you look at empiricism, where you realize like statistics, numbers, these graphs, they're all also symbols, and they signify and represent sort of reality. The p-value is less than 0.05. That has power, that has significance. It's not just a random number, it has meaning, and we put meaning into it, which becomes kind of real. We provide aura into it. And the point I want to make here is that through myth making, we take something that is not existing or not really real, and we make it real and existing and sort of objective. As much as empiricism is pursuit of objectivity, religiously speaking, a lot of the quote-unquote non-objective stuff are actually objective from a religious perspective. And that's because of this meaning making, this myth creation. And that's same with empiricism, that this empirical method of hypothesis, everything, this is almost like a ritual to bring about something into existence, into reality, to make it objective, make it real, make it tangible. That's what empiricism is, from the perspective of understanding as it also as a faith of symbolism, faith realized through symbolism and myth creation. And that's sort of my point. So in conclusion, religion and empiricism both are founded on faith, and they use symbols as a tool to bring about realism, realize the faith into existence.